Captain Thorgan gripped the arms of his command chair as the massive shapes appeared on the main display screen. The objects were enormous, stretching across space like floating metal cities. His crew had never seen anything like them before. "What are those things?" asked Lieutenant Kara from her position at the sensor station. Her voice carried a mixture of fear and wonder. "Unknown vessels, Captain," replied Commander Nexus, studying the readings carefully. "They appear to be ships of some kind, but the design is completely foreign. They're huge, each one is at least 10 kilometers long." Thorgan leaned forward, examining the strange craft more closely. The ships looked old and worn, their metal hulls scarred and darkened as if they had traveled through space for a very long time. Strange symbols and markings covered their surfaces, and massive engines glowed dimly at their rear sections. "Are they armed?" Thorgan asked. "Difficult to tell, sir. Their technology appears quite different from ours. I'm detecting fusion reactors, but they seem primitive compared to our power systems. No sign of warp drives or advanced weaponry." The bridge fell silent as everyone stared at the alien vessels. The Valdris Empire had encountered many species during their expansion across the galaxy, but these ships were unlike anything in their records. They moved slowly through space, almost drifting rather than flying with purpose. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," announced Communications Officer Delta. "It's on multiple frequencies, as if they're trying to make sure we can hear them." "Put it through," Thorgan ordered. The main screen flickered and changed to show the interior of one of the alien ships. A creature appeared before them, bipedal, with pale skin and hair growing from its head. It wore simple clothing and had kind eyes that seemed to sparkle with curiosity and hope. "Greetings, unknown vessel," the creature said in a voice that somehow sounded warm and friendly despite being completely alien. "I am Captain James Harrison of the Earth colonial ship Endeavour. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." Thorgan exchanged glances with his officers. The creature called itself human, and it spoke of Earth, which meant nothing to any of them. The universal translator was working perfectly, converting the alien language into understandable words. Captain Harrison continued speaking, his expression filled with wonder and excitement. "We have traveled for over 300 years to reach this region of space. Our ancestors began this journey long ago, hoping that someday we would meet other intelligent beings. Today, that dream has finally come true." 300 years of travel? Thorgan could hardly believe it. His own ship could cross the same distance in mere hours using their advanced warp drive technology. These humans had spent centuries crawling through space at speeds that seemed impossibly slow. "Sir," whispered Commander Nexus, "if they've been traveling for 3 centuries, their technology must be extremely primitive. Look at those ships, they're generation vessels, designed to support populations for hundreds of years during slow interstellar travel." Lieutenant Kara added her own observations. "Captain, I'm detecting thousands of life signs aboard each vessel. They must have entire civilizations living on those ships." Thorgan nodded thoughtfully. This was clearly a species that had achieved basic spaceflight but lacked any truly advanced technology. They had solved the problem of interstellar travel through brute force and determination rather than scientific advancement. It was almost admirable in its simplicity. The human captain was still speaking, his voice growing more excited with each word. "We carry with us the knowledge and culture of our homeworld, Earth. We have artists and scientists, farmers and engineers, all working together to build new homes among the stars. We hope that meeting your people will mark the beginning of a wonderful friendship between our species." "Respond to their transmission," Thorgan ordered. He stood up from his chair and smoothed his uniform, preparing to make first contact with this primitive but apparently peaceful race. The communication channel opened, and Captain Harrison's face showed surprise and delight as Thorgan appeared on his screen. "Welcome, Captain Harrison," Thorgan said, using his most diplomatic tone. "I am Captain Thorgan of the Valdris Empire. We are honored to be the first to greet you in this region of space." The human's reaction was everything Thorgan had hoped for. Harrison's eyes widened with amazement, and he turned to speak excitedly with others who were apparently standing just out of view. When he turned back to face the screen, his expression was full of gratitude and wonder. "The Valdris Empire," Harrison repeated slowly, as if savoring the words. "We are so grateful to meet you, Captain Thorgan. We have so many questions about this part of the galaxy, about your people, about the other civilizations we might encounter during our travels." "We would be happy to share our knowledge," Thorgan replied smoothly. "Perhaps you would honor us by visiting our ship? We could discuss your needs and how the Valdris Empire might assist your people in their journey." The joy on Harrison's face was unmistakable. That would be wonderful, Captain. We accept your generous invitation. We have a small diplomatic team ready for just such an occasion. As the transmission ended, Thorgan turned to his crew with a satisfied expression. This first contact was proceeding perfectly. The humans appeared to be a young, peaceful species with primitive technology but admirable determination. They would make excellent allies, and the Valdris Empire would clearly be the senior partner in any relationship. Prepare to receive their delegation, Thorgan ordered. And make sure all sensitive areas of the ship remain restricted. We'll show them our hospitality, but our most advanced technologies must remain secret until we better understand their intentions and capabilities. Commander Nexus nodded in understanding. Of course, sir. No access to the warp drive sections or advanced weapons systems. Thorgan smiled as he watched the human ships slowly approaching. This encounter would likely be remembered as a historic moment, the day the mighty Valdris Empire welcomed a primitive but promising species into the galactic community. He had no way of knowing that he was about to make the biggest mistake of his career. The human shuttle docked with the Valdris flagship 2 hours later. Captain Thorgan stood in the docking bay with his senior officers, watching as 5 humans stepped through the airlock. They moved with careful, measured steps, their eyes wide with wonder as they took in their surroundings. Captain Harrison led the group, still wearing the same simple uniform from the transmission. Behind him walked a woman with short brown hair who carried a small device that beeped softly as she moved. A tall man with calloused hands examined the walls and floor with obvious interest, while a woman in formal clothes smiled politely at everyone she saw. The last member of their group was a young man who seemed to notice everything, his head turning constantly as he observed the advanced Valdris technology around them. "Welcome aboard the Starfire," Captain Thorgan announced, gesturing broadly. "Allow me to introduce my crew and show you the wonders of Valdris engineering." Dr. Sarah Mitchell, as the woman with the device introduced herself, immediately began asking questions. "This gravity feels completely natural," she said, amazement clear in her voice. "How do you generate artificial gravity so smoothly? Our ships use rotating sections, but this feels just like being on a planet." Engineer David Cole knelt down and pressed his hand against the deck plating. "The field must be incredibly stable. We've dreamed of technology like this for generations, but our scientists said it was impossible." Captain Thorgan smiled proudly as he led them through the corridors. "Valdris science has mastered many things that younger civilizations find difficult. Our gravity generators are just one example of our advanced understanding of physics." The tour began in the recreational areas, where Thorgan showed off their holographic entertainment systems and exercise facilities. The humans gasped with delight at the realistic images that appeared in the air, reaching out cautiously to touch the light constructs. "This is incredible," whispered Rebecca Turner, the diplomatic woman. "The detail is perfect. How do you create solid images from nothing?" "Photonic manipulation combined with force field technology," Thorgan explained casually, enjoying their obvious amazement. "We use it for training, entertainment, and education." Young Thomas Wright stood quietly in the corner, watching everything with sharp eyes. While the others asked excited questions about the holographic displays, he seemed more interested in the wall panels and ceiling fixtures. His gaze lingered on the subtle energy patterns that flowed through the ship's systems. The next stop was the food preparation area, where Thorgan demonstrated their molecular food synthesizers. The humans watched in wonder as he programmed the machine to create a perfectly prepared meal from basic atomic materials. "It builds the food one molecule at a time," Dr. Mitchell breathed, her device beeping faster as she scanned the synthesizer. "The precision required must be extraordinary. How do you maintain quantum coherence at such scales?" David Cole ran his hands along the machine's surface, studying its construction with professional interest. "The energy requirements alone must be enormous. What kind of power source drives something like this?" "Advanced fusion reactors, far beyond anything your generation ships could produce," Commander Nexus answered proudly. "Our power systems are thousands of times more efficient than primitive chemical or nuclear reactions." The humans exchanged glances that seemed excited rather than discouraged by their technological disadvantage. Thomas Wright asked quietly, "The harmonic patterns from your power systems create fascinating resonance frequencies. Does that affect other ship systems?" "Our engineers have perfected the integration of all ship systems," Thorgan replied smoothly, though he noticed the young man's question showed surprising technical knowledge. As they moved through the ship, Captain Thorgan was careful to avoid the restricted sections. The corridors leading to the warp drive engineering decks were sealed off, and he guided the group away from any areas that might reveal the Valdris Empire's most precious secrets. The humans seemed genuinely grateful for everything they were shown. Dr. Mitchell took detailed recordings of the gravity generators, asking permission before scanning each component with her device. Engineer Cole made careful sketches of the food synthesizers and life support systems, his drawings showing remarkable attention to detail for someone from such a primitive civilization. "Your generosity overwhelms us," Rebecca Turner said warmly as they paused in an observation lounge. "In exchange for your kindness, we would love to share some of our own achievements. Perhaps you would be interested in our closed-loop agricultural systems or our radiation shielding technologies." The humans activated their own devices, showing holographic displays of their ship designs and technical innovations. Their technology was indeed impressive for such a young species, but nothing that threatened Valdra's superiority. Their solutions were clever but crude, using brute force methods where Valdra's science employed elegant efficiency. "Remarkable work for a civilization of your age," Thorgan commented diplomatically. "You've accomplished much with limited resources." Thomas Wright had wandered toward a maintenance panel near one of the restricted corridors. He stood quietly, head tilted as if listening to something the others couldn't hear. "The harmonic resonance patterns from deeper in your ship are fascinating," he commented innocently. "The frequency signatures suggest something truly revolutionary." Captain Thorgan quickly moved to guide the young man away from the area. "Just routine ship operations," he said casually. "Nothing that would interest visitors. Perhaps we should continue the tour in the botanical gardens." The young human nodded politely and rejoined his group, but Thorgan noticed him glancing back toward the restricted corridor with thoughtful eyes. As the tour concluded, the humans expressed their gratitude repeatedly. They seemed genuinely impressed by everything they had seen, asking intelligent questions that revealed their curiosity without showing any dangerous ambition. "Thank you for this incredible experience," Captain Harrison said as they prepared to return to their shuttle. "Meeting the Valdris Empire has exceeded our wildest dreams. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." After the humans departed, Commander Nexus joined Thorgan on the bridge. "They seem harmless enough," he observed. "Primitive but eager to learn. Their questions showed intelligence, but nothing that suggests they could pose any threat to our technology." Captain Thorgan nodded confidently. "Exactly as I expected. A young species with potential, but clearly our inferiors in every meaningful way. The most important secrets remain safely hidden." Neither of them noticed that Thomas Wright's innocent questions had revealed far more about Valdris technology than any direct scanning could have provided. 3 days passed peacefully after the human delegation returned to their ships. Captain Thorgan felt satisfied with how the first contact had proceeded. The humans had been appropriately grateful and impressed, asking no uncomfortable questions about the restricted areas of his vessel. Their primitive technology posed no threat to Valdris' superiority. The emergency alarm that woke him from deep sleep shattered that comfortable confidence completely. Thorgan rushed through the corridors in his sleeping clothes, following the urgent calls from the engineering section. Chief Engineer Koratha's voice over the communication system sounded panicked, something Thorgan had never heard before in all their years of service together. "Captain, you need to see this immediately," Korath said when Thorgan arrived at the main engineering deck. "Something impossible has happened." The engineering bay buzzed with activity as technicians ran diagnostic scans and checked system readings. In the center of the room stood the primary warp core housing, a massive cylindrical structure that contained the heart of their faster-than-light propulsion system. The housing stood open. Thorgan stared into the empty chamber where the quantum resonance matrix should have been. The crystalline component that took master craftsmen years to create was simply gone. In its place was an empty space surrounded by carefully sealed connection points. "When did you discover this?" Thorgan asked, his voice barely steady. 20 minutes ago during routine maintenance," Korath replied, his hands shaking as he consulted his scanner readings. "The matrix has been surgically removed with precision I've never seen before. Every connection was properly sealed to prevent system failures or alarms." Commander Nexus arrived moments later, still fastening his uniform. He stopped dead when he saw the empty core chamber. "How is this possible? Our security systems showed no unauthorized access to the restricted areas." Korath moved his scanner along the edge of the empty housing. "Captain, look at these tool marks. The molecular signatures are unlike anything in our databases, but the precision of the cuts is beyond our own engineering capabilities." Thorgan examined the clean edges where the matrix had been disconnected. Each cut was perfect, made with tools that could work at the atomic level without disturbing the surrounding components. "Could one of our own people have done this?" "Impossible, sir. This kind of extraction would require detailed knowledge of quantum resonance theory and access to manufacturing techniques we don't possess ourselves. Besides, every member of the engineering crew was monitored during their scheduled maintenance periods. Commander Nexus was studying a wall display showing security footage from the past 3 days. "Captain, I've reviewed every second of surveillance since the humans departed. No breaches of the restricted corridors, no unusual activity anywhere near the engineering sections." Thorgan felt cold dread settling in his stomach. "Show me the footage from during their visit." The security recordings played on the main screen. They showed the human delegation moving through the approved areas of the ship exactly as Thorgan remembered. Dr. Mitchell scanning the gravity generators, Engineer Cole examining the food synthesizers, Rebecca Turner asking polite questions about ship operations. "Wait," Thorgan said suddenly. "Where's the young one? Thomas Wright?" Nexus scrolled back through the footage. In most scenes, 4 humans were clearly visible while the 5th seemed to be just outside the camera range or partially hidden behind the others. "The recordings show all 5 humans accounted for at all times, sir." But something felt wrong. Thorgan studied the images more carefully. Thomas Wright appeared in the background of several scenes, but his positioning seemed odd. He was always near maintenance panels or utility access points, and in several shots, he appeared to be listening rather than looking. "Korath, run a detailed analysis on those tool marks," Thorgan ordered. "I want to know what kind of equipment could make cuts that precise." The chief engineer worked frantically at his console for several minutes. When the results appeared, his face went pale. "Captain, the molecular analysis shows trace elements consistent with human manufacturing techniques. The tools used were made from metals with isotope ratios matching what we observed in their shuttle and equipment." The implications hit everyone on the bridge at the same moment. The humans had somehow accessed the most secure area of the ship, stolen the most critical component of Valdra's warp drive technology, and done so without triggering any alarms or leaving evidence of their presence. "But how?" Commander Nexus whispered. "We watched them constantly. They never left the approved areas." Korath was running more detailed scans of the engineering section. "Captain, I'm detecting microscopic residue in the ventilation systems. The patterns suggest someone used the maintenance ducts to move through restricted areas." Thorgan felt his understanding of the situation crumbling. The maintenance ducts are too small for adult humanoids. And they are filled with security sensors. "The residue patterns are very small, sir. As if someone with detailed knowledge of our sensor grid knew exactly how to move without detection." A new alarm began sounding from the sensor station. Lieutenant Kara's voice came over the communication system with barely controlled panic. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting multiple warp signatures approaching our position at high speed." "That's impossible," Thorgan said automatically. "The humans have no warp capability." But even as he spoke the words, he knew they were wrong. Everything he had believed about the primitive human civilization was proving to be catastrophically incorrect. "Sir," Kara continued, "the warp signatures are moving faster than our own ships are capable of traveling. Estimated time to arrival is less than 1 hour." Korath stared at his readings in disbelief. "Captain, if they've reverse-engineered our warp technology in just 3 days, their engineering capabilities are far beyond anything we imagined." Thorgan looked around at his crew, seeing his own fear reflected in their faces. The humans weren't the primitive, grateful species they had appeared to be. They were something much more dangerous, a civilization that could steal advanced technology and improve it in a matter of hours. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered quietly. "And send an emergency message to Fleet Command. Tell them everything we know about the humans." As alarms echoed through the ship, Captain Thorgan realized that the Valdris Empire had just encountered its greatest threat in 1,000 years. 18 hours after discovering the theft, the impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open as multiple warp signatures appeared directly in front of the Valdris flagship. The arrival was so sudden and precise that Captain Thorgan's crew barely had time to react. "Shields up!" Thorgan shouted, but his hands were already shaking as he watched the newcomers emerge from warp space. The ships that appeared bore no resemblance to the massive generation vessels from days before. These craft were sleek and elegant, their hulls gleaming with advanced materials that seemed to bend light around their edges. They moved with perfect coordination, their formation precise beyond anything Thorgan had ever witnessed. "Captain," Lieutenant Kara reported from her sensor station, her voice filled with disbelief, "their warp drives are operating at efficiency levels 300% higher than our own technology. The power signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Commander Nexus studied the tactical display with growing alarm. Sir, they're not taking aggressive positions. They appear to be requesting communication. The main screen activated without waiting for Thorgan's command, showing the familiar face of Captain Harrison. But the warm, wondering expression was gone, replaced by confident professionalism. Behind him, the bridge of his new ship hummed with advanced technology that made Valdris systems look primitive. Captain Thorgan, Harrison said with a friendly smile that now seemed far more calculating than before, requesting permission to come aboard. I believe we have something that belongs to you. Thorgan's throat felt dry as he struggled to respond. Captain Harrison, your ships, how is this possible? May we board your vessel? I think it would be easier to explain in person. Minutes later, the same 5 humans materialized in the transporter bay, but everything about them had changed. The wide-eyed wonder was completely gone, replaced by the bearing of people who knew exactly what they were doing. Dr. Sarah Mitchell carried a small containment case that made Chief Engineer Corath's scanners react wildly. We apologize for the unauthorized borrowing of your quantum resonance matrix, Dr. Mitchell said calmly as she placed the case on the conference table. Our engineering team needed to understand the underlying principles. We've returned it in perfect condition. Thorgan's hands trembled as he opened the case. The crystalline matrix sat inside, looking exactly as it had before. But Corath's scanner readings showed energy patterns that defied explanation. The matrix has been improved, Corath whispered in amazement. The quantum structure is more stable than anything we've ever achieved. How did you do this in less than a day? Engineer David Cole stepped forward, no longer pretending to be impressed by simple technology. 23 hours from start to finish. Our team reverse-engineered your warp drive system, identified 12 critical inefficiencies, and developed solutions for each problem. Thomas Wright, who had seemed so young and curious during their first visit, activated a holographic display that showed detailed technical specifications. We've increased power efficiency by approximately 340% while eliminating the harmonic resonance problems that were limiting your maximum velocity. That's impossible, Commander Nexus breathed. Our greatest scientists spent thousands of years developing warp drive technology. Different approaches, I suppose, Wright replied with a casual shrug. Humans have always been good at taking things apart to see how they work. We've had lots of practice with this sort of problem. Rebecca Turner, the diplomatic woman, smiled warmly but her eyes remained sharp and calculating. The improved designs have already been transmitted to our other colonial fleets. 17 different human settlements will have these upgrades implemented within the week. Thorgan felt reality shifting around him as the true scope of human capability became clear. The generation ships, the primitive appearance, it was all false. Captain Harrison nodded matter-of-factly. Humanity learned long ago that approaching advanced civilizations as equals often results in conflict. It's much easier to appear harmless and let others underestimate our capabilities. Through the conference room windows, more human ships continued to arrive. Each vessel that dropped out of warp space was clearly using the improved drive technology, moving with speeds that made Valdris ships look like they were standing still. You see, Dr. Mitchell explained as she began packing up technical specifications that she was freely sharing, reverse engineering alien technology is something of a human specialty. We've made similar contact with 14 other species in the past month alone. The number hit Thorgan like a physical blow. 14 other species. The galaxy is full of civilizations with fascinating technologies just waiting to be studied, Thomas Wright added cheerfully. Each species we encounter teaches us something new about physics, engineering, or scientific methods we hadn't considered. Chief Engineer Corath was studying the technical readouts with growing amazement and horror. Captain, according to these specifications, they've not only improved our warp drive but completely redesigned the fundamental principles. This represents advances that should take centuries to develop. How many of you are there? Commander Nexus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Captain Harrison consulted a device on his wrist. Current human population across our various colonies is approximately 47 billion. With the new warp drive technology, our expansion rate should increase exponentially. Rebecca Turner stood up, adjusting her diplomatic clothing. We do hope the Valdris Empire will consider a formal alliance. Humans make excellent partners, we're very good at improving existing technologies and finding innovative applications for them. What happens if we refuse? Thorgan heard himself asking. Nothing hostile, Thomas Wright assured him quickly. We're not conquerors. But you should know that improved versions of your technology are already being shared with our allied civilizations. The galaxy is about to become a much smaller place. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Captain Harrison paused at the doorway. One last thing, Captain Thorgan. That quantum resonance matrix we borrowed? We made some modifications during our analysis. Your ship's warp drive is now running at peak efficiency. Consider it a gift between friends. After the humans departed, Korath confirmed what Harrison had said. Captain, our warp capacity has increased by over 200%. The power consumption has actually decreased. They improved our ship without even asking permission. Thorgan stared out at the growing fleet of human vessels, each one representing a species that had turned every advanced civilization they encountered into an unwitting research and development department. Captain Thorgan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching through the main view screen as dozens of human ships moved through space with impossible grace. Each vessel represented technology that had been stolen, improved, and returned within a matter of hours. The sight filled him with a mixture of awe and deep, growing fear. Captain, Lieutenant Kara reported from her sensor station, we're detecting more human ships arriving every few minutes. Current count is over 60 vessels, and they're all using warp drives superior to our own. Chief Engineer Korath worked frantically at his console, trying to understand the improvements the humans had made to their own ship systems. Sir, the modifications they made to our warp core are extraordinary. I'm seeing efficiency improvements I didn't think were possible. They've solved problems our scientists have been working on for decades. Commander Nexus studied the tactical display with growing alarm. Captain, the human fleet is spreading out across the entire star system. They're not taking hostile positions, but they're effectively surrounding us. A new communication came through from Captain Harrison. His image appeared on the main screen, showing him standing on a bridge that looked more advanced than anything in the Valdris fleet. Behind him, crew members worked at stations that hummed with technologies Thorgan couldn't even identify. Captain Thorgan, Harrison said with the same friendly tone as always, I wanted to thank you personally for your assistance. The quantum resonance matrix you allowed us to study has opened up remarkable possibilities for our engineering teams. We didn't allow you anything, Thorgan replied, trying to keep his voice steady. You stole it. Harrison's expression didn't change. A misunderstanding of terms, perhaps. We prefer to think of it as collaborative research. After all, we did return your property in better condition than we found it. Dr. Sarah Mitchell appeared beside Harrison, carrying the same scanner device she had used during their first visit. But now Thorgan understood that the innocent-looking tool was probably more advanced than anything his civilization possessed. Captain Thorgan, she said pleasantly, our analysis of Valdris technology has been incredibly helpful. Your artificial gravity systems gave us ideas for improving our own inertial dampeners. The molecular food synthesizers helped us perfect our manufacturing processes. Every system we studied taught us something valuable. Thomas Wright joined them on the screen, no longer bothering to hide his technical expertise. The most interesting discovery was how your different technologies work together. We've applied those integration principles to 14 other alien technology bases we've encountered recently. The results have been remarkable. Thorgan felt his world crumbling as the full scope of human activities became clear. You've done this to other civilizations? The Corvan Republic had fascinating energy shielding technology, Wright explained cheerfully. The Nexri Union developed incredible sensor arrays. The Zelen Commonwealth created amazing medical equipment. Each species contributed something unique to our understanding. Captain Harrison activated a holographic display that showed a three-dimensional map of local space. Dozens of star systems were marked with human symbols, and the pattern was spreading rapidly across the galaxy. This is just our local expansion, Harrison explained. Human colonies in other regions are making similar contacts with advanced civilizations. We estimate that within 5 years, human technology will incorporate the best innovations from over 100 different species. Commander Nexus stared at the map in horror. You're absorbing the technologies of entire civilizations. We prefer to think of it as cultural and scientific exchange, Rebecca Turner said, joining the conversation. We're not destroying anyone or taking over their territories. We're simply learning from the remarkable achievements of our galactic neighbors. Engineer David Cole appeared on the screen, holding a device that projected detailed technical specifications into the air. For example, by combining Valdris warp drive principles with Corvan energy shielding and Nexri sensor technology, we've created ships that can travel faster and more efficiently than anything previously imagined. The specifications he showed made Korath gasp with amazement. The human ships weren't just improved versions of existing technology, they were entirely new designs that combined the best features of multiple civilizations into something unprecedented. How many ships do you have now? Thorgan asked, dreading the answer. Captain Harrison consulted his wrist device again. Current fleet strength across all human territories is approximately 12,000 vessels, though that number increases daily as we implement new technologies and construction techniques. Lieutenant Kara's voice trembled as she reported new sensor readings. Captain, I'm detecting human ships in 17 different star systems within our local region. They're everywhere. Dr. Mitchell smiled warmly, as if she were discussing the weather rather than the complete transformation of galactic civilization. We're very efficient at sharing knowledge among our colonies. When one group makes a breakthrough, every human settlement benefits within days. Thomas Wright added, we've also begun sharing improved technologies with some of the species we've encountered. The Corvan Republic now has better warp drives thanks to Valdris innovations. The next reunion has improved energy shields. Everyone benefits from cooperation. The implications were staggering. The humans weren't just stealing technology, they were creating a network of advanced civilizations all connected through improved human designs. What do you want from us? Thorgan finally asked. Nothing hostile, Captain Harrison assured him. We hope the Valdris Empire will consider joining our cooperative network. Think of the benefits: access to technologies from dozens of advanced species, protection through mutual defense agreements, and participation in the fastest period of scientific advancement in galactic history. Rebecca Turner leaned forward with diplomatic interest. Of course, if you prefer to maintain your independence, that's perfectly acceptable. We won't force anyone to join our network. But you should understand that the galaxy is changing rapidly. Species that don't adapt to the new reality may find themselves left behind. As the human fleet began dispersing to other star systems, carrying their stolen and improved technologies across space, Captain Thorgan realized that the age of isolated civilizations was ending. Humanity had found a way to turn every advanced species they encountered into unwilling contributors to their own technological revolution. The galaxy had just become much smaller, and far more dangerous, than anyone had imagined.